Hello and welcome back to the Manufacturing Culture Podcast. I'm your host, Jim Mayer, and I am thrilled to have you with us today. Before we dive into today's episode, I want to remind you to check us out at our website, themfgconnector.com. You can also find us on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram, and even TikTok if I keep up with it, for all the latest updates and behind the scenes looks at what's happening in the world of manufacturing. Don't forget to tune in to our other show, The Manufacturing Connector on YouTube. If you're looking for solutions and you know you have a problem in your shop and you're looking for cutting edge innovations in the industry, that's the show for you. So, folks, today we're going to go on a trip, shall we? Today we're headed to Plano, Texas, where we have a fantastic guest joining us, Jesse Casto, the owner and visionary behind BetterCNC. Founded in January of 2021, BetterCNC has quickly risen to the top with its mission to revolutionize the manufacturing industry. Jesse's dedication to providing a better experience for every customer is evident from the moment you first contact BetterCNC through to the shipping of product and beyond. Jesse's journey in the world of manufacturing is completely inspiring. He was raised with a strong work ethic and a passion for learning, and he's never settled for anything less than the best. From humble beginnings in a small garage to their current state-of-the-art facility, Jesse and his team have been pushing the boundaries of innovation, ensuring that every product is built with precision and care. At BetterCNC, the mantra is simple: build it better. Jesse's vision is to become the most innovative manufacturing company with an insatiable focus on process efficiency. This drive for constant improvement is at the heart of everything they do, ensuring that their customers receive the highest quality precision components using the latest technologies. But what truly sets Jesse apart is his unwavering belief that there is always a better way. Inspired by his father's machine shop, where innovation and problem solving were everyday practices, Jesse has instilled this mindset into BetterCNC. It's not just about growth for them, it's about creating a culture where innovation is a way of life. So buckle up and get ready for an exciting conversation as we dive deep into Jesse's journey, his passion for continuous learning, and how BetterCNC is setting new standards in the manufacturing industry. Hello, Jesse Casto. Welcome to the Manufacturing Culture Podcast. How are you doing today?
So far so good. Finally made it to Friday for the week.
Absolutely. And Friday is a wonderful day for some, for others, it's Monday, right? So, Jesse, like we start every episode, tell us your story. What first got you interested in the industry, and what led you to start BetterCNC?
Yeah, so I was pretty fortunate growing up. My dad actually started what became a machine shop when I was about 6 years old.
Wow, that's
He was a
cool.
mechanic. Yeah, he was a mechanical engineer who started doing design projects on the side, outsourcing to local machine shops. Until he had so much design work that the local shops couldn't keep up, so he started bringing it in house. I remember growing up, we had a Bridgeport in the garage that me and my sister would play with, like the dolly and stuff like that behind him while he was working away, and it just kind of grew up from there. But I actually had my first clock-in number when I was about 10 years old.
No kidding.
I would get paychecks and pay taxes and everything. I would do load and goes on the lathe, do assembly work, a little bit of CAD work as I started learning AutoCAD back then, and
That's
I've
cool.
always been in it. I have no memories without a machine in the background somewhere.
That's awesome. What kind of industry was your dad in?
Uh, Starting out, they were very strong with telecom. But say
Okay.
in our area, but say we had Nokia, Ericsson, a lot of the big telecom companies that were around here.
Yeah.
Just very heavy in electronics manufacturing in general.
Yeah.
As time passed, I started to get more into defense type work, but those were the primary two that I
Wow.
came up in.
That's awesome. So you cut your teeth at a young age, Jesse. What what's a story from those early days that really shaped your work ethic and your approach to better seeing?
So there's a book I want to write at some point in my life called "Getting Shit Done with All the Wrong Tools," uh, and a lot of that comes from learning from my dad and how things worked there. Because his company was almost exclusively prototyping.
Okay.
Each part was almost can be completely different from the last.
Yeah.
Uh, and so and I worked a lot on second shift where we didn't have access to everything. We didn't have as many people to go to ask for help. So we had to come up with made up solutions as we went.
Sure.
So just coming up with that and coming up with a variety of parts, you learn to do things a little bit differently. You basically you just break things down to their foundational elements, saying I have to hold it, it has to be rigid, I have to cut this feature, and you just hit each of those problems step by step. But being in that environment and coming up in that environment just really helped me figure out all my problem solving that I used to approach everything. The way I'm able to always find a better ways because I'm always looking. I did this last time. Here's the problems I had. What can I improve on that this time around?
Wow, that's
Kind of
awesome.
thing.
And so that shaped that problem solving approach. And is that where Better CNC got its name? I mean, is that you're always striving to do things better? Is that how Better CNC got its name?
Yeah. So coming up in that shop and doing all that and just the idea of always improving. Actually, funny thing is, I never made the connection with this until I started my shop. I actually got a tattoo on my leg when I was 18 that says "Never be satisfied."
Oh wow, cool.
And it's literally the same concept.
Yeah.
But I got the name Better from a conversation I had with my grandpa about my dad's business. My grandpa was telling me if you want to start a company, if you want to do something like that, you don't have to have something new. You don't have to have something that's never been seen before. You can do the same thing as everybody else, just a little bit better. And so I was rolling through names, trying to think of something that stuck. I wanted it short, I wanted it simple, easy to remember, and I was just thought of that, and I was like, better and put CNC for a CNC machine shop.
I love it.
To
And
get the name out.
From the moment you and I first connected, I've been really impressed with your branding, your marketing, and your story as a whole. So, did you go to trade school after working in your dad's shop from such a young age? After talk to us about that time after high school until Better CNC was started. Where'd your story take you?
Yeah. So starting out when I turned 18, that was when I formally started working at my dad's shop. Brought me in as a shipping clerk. So I like to say whatever nepotism is, my dad did the opposite. For better or worse, it worked out well for me in the end. But I started as a shipping clerk, and I authentically worked from the back of the shop to the front.
Wow.
But I started as a shipping clerk, and then I started doing a lot more load and go work. Then they taught me. I learned how to program and set up machines at the same time simultaneously. Until I got to where I was running the shift and I was training the new guys that we brought in that were green to the industry, and moved into quality control, handled our ISO program. And at that point, I actually started job hopping for a little bit. And every shop I went to, I was in a different type of. I was lead programmer, I was quality manager, production planner. My dad sold his business about 10 years ago.
Okay.
And I started consulting for the new owner, trying to find more efficient ways to track jobs, actuals versus estimates, stuff like that. He ended up giving me a job offer to come back, and I ended up being pretty much the whole front end of that shop, doing quoting, purchasing, order processing, production planning.
Wow.
When he brought me back to the business. And that worked out well for a little bit. They sold the company. They ended up selling the company again. I could tell it wasn't quite going to be the same fit for me. So I found a new home as business manager for a small four-man shop. But I told my wife when I went there, said, because for me, I always liked the idea of having my own shop, but it was more about having the freedom to experiment.
Okay.
I know I can handle the business. I know I can run things successfully. I want the playground to learn and do more. So that last job I took, I told my wife, if this doesn't pan out, I'm finding a way on my own, one way or the other. Uh, but I had that job. I worked there for about 2-something years. Wasn't going the direction I anticipated it to be, and found a machine to get here.
That's pretty neat. Um, how big was your dad's shop when you were working there, and the and then how big was it when you went back?
So it didn't change too much when I went back. It had been around 30 to 35 employees, probably 3 to 5 million a year in revenue.
Yeah.
For a little while. One unique thing there that helped me coming up, and really from what I've seen, any machinist that worked there, in my mind, was some of the best machinists in the area, some of the best machinists I've met.
Okay.
Because the unique thing about that shop is every machine had its own computer. Everybody was a programmer.
Wow. That's cool.
So you would literally get the traveler with the job and do what you had to do to get that part done and off.
Wow. So,
and that just really led to some phenomenal machinists.
And was that in Plano as well?
Yeah.
Okay, so you're born and raised in Plano, like you're a hometown guy.
I had a machine in my garage about a half mile from where my dad started in our garage growing up.
Wow.
So I'm literally in the same neighborhood.
That's awesome.
That he kicked off in.
That's awesome. Yeah. So what kind of advice does your dad give you today about starting a shop?
Usually just plan on more time than you expect to have. When I first moved into a warehouse, he told me make sure I pick a comfy couch to have in the lobby.
Because you'll be sleeping there?
Yeah, because there's going to be times. But I'd say he helps me a lot with the day-to-day. I mean, not day-to-day, but just when I'm getting stressed, when I'm having tight moments, he'll come by, and usually I'll talk to him and just kind of talk it out a little bit.
Yeah.
Just because he can relate.
Yep.
He's very much letting me have my own journey.
That's awesome.
But it's nice to kind of be able to talk to him and relate. Say I'm having this struggle right now. He'll tell me a bit about when he went through that with Rapid early on, and
that's cool.
Just kind of compare notes and see what did he do, what am I doing, kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, everybody needs that sounding board, right? So I'm glad you've got it. After you left that last shop and you decided you were starting BetterCNC, was it BetterCNC at that point? And was that then in your garage?
Yeah. So what pushed me to get the idea of my own business was kind of the culmination of the job hopping that I had.
Okay.
I ended up, there was a period of time, I think I went 4 or 5 years where every year I had to file taxes for 2 different companies.
Oh.
I didn't work 12 months for the same business at any point for a little period of time.
Wow. Okay.
And pretty much everywhere I worked, I was whatever it was that I was running into with whatever type of glass ceiling I was hitting. I was like, okay, I'm tired of that. This is a new opportunity. Sounds like it should be a better fit. Work there until I hit some kind of wall there. And just the culmination of that, and I was collecting ideas of what I wanted my shop to not be like that.
Sure.
And then finally at the last company, I had an arrangement. Let's say I'm not going to reveal the company, but I had an arrangement to buy the business. I was going to come in to be business manager and work to improve the company, turn it around because they've been flatlined for about a decade. But I was going to come in, kind of turn it around a little bit, get back on a growth path for growth. And the owner would start to kind of pass things over to me until we come to an arrangement and fully transfer it over. But he wasn't, let's say, I brought in, he went from 5 customers a year to 28 customers my first year. We were growing, we got our ITAR certification, but he wasn't really giving me the freedom that I was expecting to make process improvements and start evolving the business side. And so I told my wife, I was like, it's not really panning out here the way we were expecting. We had moved, we had some money set aside. She could tell I was kind of getting that itch again. Saw me looking at Tormach videos and stuff like that. And we had sold our house and had a little bit of money left over from the sale for a down payment. So I remember I was watching a video just sitting in the recliner and we were talking about it. She was like, well, how much is it going to be? I was like, oh, it's about 30,000. It'll probably be a couple thousand down. And she was like, do it. It's like, what? Do it. I trust you. I was like, okay.
That's
So I got the
awesome.
Tormont. I did it on the side for 6 months before I went full time with it.
Okay. So where did you find your first customers when you were first starting out there?
So when I first started, let's say I'm very big about online presence. Before I even had the machine on the floor, I had a website up. I had social media. I was putting out posts. All the posts were like, "Coming soon. Get ready for something big," kind of stuff. Because I had no pictures to actually show.
Sure.
But my first year, I actually did a lot of work with exometry.
Okay.
They were about 70% of my revenue for my first year.
Yeah.
Just doing it on the side and having a limited machine like a Tormach where I only have 14 by 9 inches of space,
Yeah.
and not a lot of power. I didn't want to go free for all, bringing in everything and having to no bid most of it because I just didn't have the capability or the time to outsource it.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So I pinned a lot on going through with exometry, and it worked out for me. It gave me the ability to kind of pick work that makes sense for me on a timeline that I can do.
Yeah, absolutely. Pick the business that fits your model the best, right? And I mean that's the joy behind Xometry.
Yeah, no, I think anyone that wants to get in space, I think resources like exometry are great for people wanting to learn, people wanting to start out, and because you can, let's say, you can pick and choose. You can learn a lot doing those parts because you can grab the basic ones you're comfortable with. You can grab one that's pushing it a little bit.
Yeah,
as far as your skill set, and it's let's say mixed reviews on exometry in general for small shops starting out, but I think it's something everybody should get on board with.
Yeah,
if you can qualify for it and get set up, it's a free resource for work.
Absolutely.
To me, you got to be crazy to not take advantage of something like that.
Yeah,
to have that kind of little bit of a safety net there, a little bit of a cushion.
Yeah. So you're doing side gig in your garage for 6 months, working with Xometry for a year. What happened after that first year of working with Xometry jobs? Is that when you moved into the shop there?
So I ended up moving here after about a year and a half in the garage.
Okay.
So before I had a machine on the floor, I actually had a plan for my first 3 years of when I wanted to move, when I wanted my next machine. And I've hit almost every target.
Have you really?
Some of them got a little delayed, but it's partially just because of the economy coming out of COVID and everything like that.
Sure.
But no, I moved into my warehouse after a year and a half. I was able to meet my first goal of buying my first machine, my first industrial machine within a year. Wow. But it took 6 months to get here, which is why I didn't get the warehouse until then.
Oh man, that stinks.
Yeah, but once we got that, and once I went full time is when I really started trying to pull non-exometry work.
Okay.
I never wanted to be an exometry only shop. I view them as extra capacity. If I have a slow day or something, grab something, spit it out, just so we're moving.
Yep.
But I started growing outside of exometry. They were 70% my first year. They were about 50% my second year. And so far this year, they're tracking to be about 30%. 30%, maybe less than that.
Good for you. So what's the main industry that you serve or that BetterCNC serves?
So BetterCNC, we do a lot of automotive. We're getting more and more into aerospace, mainly commercial, non-flight critical components.
Yeah.
We're not AS91 or anything. Electronics manufacturing, robotics automation, getting some more R&D in general where it kind of touches a little bit of everything.
That's awesome, man. So you're spanning multiple verticals within the industry here.
Yeah, that's one thing I learned at my dad's shop, being prototype. Because his shop took a big hit with the telecom bubble when it popped around 1999.
Yeah.
And after that, my dad put a lot of effort into diversifying the business, so that it didn't get impacted like that. And so I'm really taking that to heart. And if you have a hand in every pot, then whenever somebody's slow, somebody else is going to be busy. So you can always keep the spindles turning.
I absolutely like that. So how many employees does BetterCNC have now?
So right now, I'm still the only full-time employee.
Yep.
I've got a couple part-time guys. One guy comes in regularly Monday and Wednesday. The other guy's as needed when we get load and go work. I can have him. He's the one who's actually running the machines right now. keeping them turning so I could take some time for this.
Well, tell them thank you, because I really appreciate
Yeah.
having you on here.
But no, we're growing fast. We're right at the hump. We've got enough work for it. I'm trying to stabilize our cash flow a little bit because we're still still kind of a learning curve I'm going through right now. Is though there's always money somewhere. It's just where. But once we get that leveled out, we've got plenty of work to bring on another full-time employee.
That'd be awesome
To keep
Good
us moving.
That's fantastic, man. Congratulations. So what's next for Better CNC? Right, you had a 3-year plan when you started. Do you have the next 3 years already? I mean, because it's your first 3 years is almost up here, right?
Yeah, we just crossed the 3-year mark, I think, last January.
Okay.
And the plan evolved a little bit. I was planning on moving to a new warehouse this past spring, but I ended up having my first kid around the same time I would have been moving.
Congratulations.
So I instead of moving, because my luck, I'd be halfway on a forklift halfway on the trailer with the machine when my wife calls me. So I ended up just renewing my lease for another 2 years.
Got it.
But we're looking at getting a 5-axis machine by the end of the year. And depending on how it goes, I'll arm wrestle one of my neighbors for one of their spare suites and see if we can get some more room so we can get a lathe in here too.
Good for you. That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And then, but I know we've talked a little bit about it, but we're also looking at kicking off a software and expanding our capability a little bit.
Yeah. Awesome.
Towards the end of this year.
I didn't want to touch on that just yet. I didn't know if you were ready to talk about that.
Yeah, no, I figured, but just about to say it's part of our plans. It's going to be a big piece of what we got coming up soon. So.
Got it. And for all of you listening or watching, there will be a future episode, but it will be on the manufacturing connector, where Jesse will walk us through his software and tell us about how it solves problems in the manufacturing industry. And from what I've heard about it so far, it'll definitely be an episode you guys won't want to miss. Speaking of that, and you finding better ways to do things, you have a massively strong belief in finding a better way, right? Hence the name Better CNC, your grandpa's. So how does that influence your daily life and your business decisions there at the shop?
Yeah. So, and I'm sure a lot of guys have ran into this kind of thing. Everywhere a lot of places I've worked, you run into, we do it this way because it's the way we've always done it kind of thing.
Yep.
And that is just, that's always driven me nuts. Because just in the natural, let's say when you're setting stuff up, you might find a better way of setting it up. But that's like the smallest thing where you start to run into it. Well, I have a better way of setting this up. Well, we don't set it up that way. Keep setting it up the way we do it. And so part of the concept behind Better is I want it to be a machinist's playground. My goal for anyone I have working here is I want to have all the tools available to you, but I'm not going to tell you how to do it. We'll have all the fixtures you want. We'll have, let's say I make sure I've done a lot of effort to find the most best fit tools for the job, whether it's stainless steel, aluminum, plastic, everything like that. I want to make sure we have the best thing available.
Yeah.
And whenever we hire machinists, we're going to make sure they're aware they have that freedom to experiment.
That's awesome.
We don't want you to be in the old stuck in this is how I've always done it kind of thing. I always want to be advancing because you've learned new techniques. I just started using a vacuum fixture for the first time. I've never used one before, but I got a vacuum chuck, and that thing's lived on my machine for the past 2 months.
That's it, really? You just love it?
Oh yeah, I've started learning how to design custom vacuum fixtures. I've done stuff as thick as 1.25 inches on that plate already because of the way I've had my vacuum fixtures fit onto it.
Do you want to give us a shameless plug of who the vacuum fixture is from?
Yeah, so I'm using the Pearson work holding vacuum fixture.
Cool.
And I like it because it pulls vacuum using the Venturi effect. It actually takes positive air to pull vacuum.
Wow.
So I didn't have to get a separate compressor, no separate filter, none of that. It's something I can just bolt in the machine and go.
That's cool. I love that. That's amazing.
Yeah,
so
I've actually got a town.
So is that your latest example of doing it better, bringing the best thing to the table that you possibly can find?
Yeah. So let's say for me and my own machining, let's say I've never used it. I had a lot of 1/8" plate work I was doing, and it's repeat work where I'm doing 300 of these little lids at a time.
Wow.
And I started doing it via tab machining or picture frame machining, which was something I learned when I was in the garage on the Tormach, which worked well. But when you're doing 300 of these lids, when you're having to snap the tabs, deburr all the tabs off 300 times,
Yeah.
so I started looking around and I was like, well, vacuum chuck would probably be good for this. So I got the vacuum chuck, I used it, finished out that job. And then I started looking at all these other jobs I've got. Well, it's like, this would probably fit really well on there. This would almost work, but I need a little bit more of a fixture to kind of control it a little bit. Let me do that too.
Cool.
And yeah, I've already been evolving with it. I've already got my own way of putting fixtures on top of the Pearson work holding vacuum to where I can pull vacuum on other stuff while holding them even more rigid than just the O-ring pulling down.
So Jesse, what drives you to have this mindset of continuous learning and improvement, right? Are there things that you intentionally do every day to help you stay focused on innovating?
To me, it's a lot of guys that, let's say, you'll see a lot of guys that start in the industry are always very enthusiastic, and a lot of guys that retire in the industry are kind of bored and beat down.
Yep.
And to me, part of that is getting somewhere where you're stuck doing things the same way day in, day out, even if you're doing a different part. So to me, making sure I have that environment where you can always try something new is part of what helps keep that drive.
Sure.
Knowing I'm not going to be doing things the same way I was doing last week today. And just that's the motivation for me. That's the entertainment. That's the excitement about it. It's just doing something new every time.
I love it. And having 2 part-time employees, full-time employee on the horizon, how do you foster that sense of innovation, that culture of innovation in your shop, especially with part-time employees, right? That maybe at other shops and not given that same leeway or empowerment to be as innovative as they are there.
So one thing I do, and this is something I learned at my dad's shop when I was younger, because I was supervising a shift when I was 22, 23.
Wow.
And you learn how to work with a variety of people when you're that young. And that's dealing with older guys that don't want a young punk kid. So what I learned from that is just being very enthusiastic, being very upbeat, and being very gracious.
Cool.
If you make sure anybody I bring in, I make sure they're fully aware I'm comfortable with them. I brought you here because I trust what you can do. I'm not going to be over your shoulder. If I'm over your shoulder, it's just because I bounce around all over the place, anyways. But I always make sure everybody knows I'm very thankful to have you here, and I want you to be comfortable working with me.
That's awesome. And yeah. So are those the qualities that you see as being most essential as a leader in this industry?
I think so. That's just kind of general life advice I have overall. Okay. Is to always be gracious.
Yeah.
Or always be thankful.
Yeah.
Because when I was younger, anytime I asked somebody if I said, hey, if you could do this for me, that would be awesome. Thank you so much. And whenever they were finishing it, I was seeing like, oh, you're my hero for today. That's, and I mean it. I'm not just saying it just as part of it, but I actually mean it. And I make sure they can tell that I mean it whenever I'm like, awesome, perfect.
You're authentic.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
that's it. I think
authenticity comes across and people are able to read that, right? When people say, oh, you're a rock star, and they really don't mean it, it comes across if you're not authentic when you say that kind of stuff,
Yeah. And to me, let's say in the environments I've worked in, that helps motivate people, that helps drive people, because they're not, okay, the boss is gonna, here's my job for the day. It doesn't feel like, it makes it feel like it's not just a job, but you're doing a favor. You're helping somebody else out.
Yeah.
Everybody likes to help somebody else out.
Yeah, absolutely. So what are some lessons you've learned since opening BetterCNC about business, about life, about manufacturing? What are some of the lessons you've learned?
so some of the things I've learned and some of the ideas I've had that I've been. So when I started BetterC, I was like, I want to do it this way. I want to do X, Y, Z. One thing I set out to do is prove that you don't have to hustle absolutely 24/7 to start a company. What I've learned is it's a little bit more like 26 or something like that.
I like it.
But let's say just finding one of the biggest things I'm learning is just finding that time balance.
Yeah.
Because if you can work yourself to death, but if you take a couple days off, you'll actually be more productive when you come back. And I'm learning how valuable that actually is. And then just how to present myself, how I've doing stuff like this and learning how to network. I've always gotten along with people. There's not many people I've ever butted heads with, but learning how to network and learning how to talk business is a skill that I didn't really have before.
And is there a group? I mean, are you part of any associations or networking or professional groups down there in Plano?
Not right now. I was earlier on. There used to be a manufacturing meetup in our area that met once a month.
Okay.
And I learned quite a bit there, learning how to talk about my business and talk with other professionals. But otherwise, lately I've been trying to dive more into social media and really be not just posting content, but reacting and talking to others on their own content.
Yeah, absolutely.
Kind of learning that skill set. And past 2 months, I've been a lot more active on YouTube.
So you talked about your lessons that you learned. What advice, if you could go back in time to younger Jesse, what would you say to them about your journey so far?
Early on, something I think about, just thinking about to younger me, and a lot of shop owners probably won't like hearing this, I tell this to some younger guys, is any extra effort you put into a company you're working for, that's for yourself.
Yeah.
What I've learned bouncing around to different machine shops is putting in 40 extra hours a week, things like that, doesn't actually gain you that much in the real world.
Yeah.
It creates an expectation of you that if you stop doing that extra effort, you're going to start getting the side eye like you're slacking off. Right. Even if you're going from 70 to 40 hours, if you've been doing 70 every month, they're going to be like, why aren't you doing 70 hours for me anymore?
Yeah.
But if you're younger, if you're coming in industry and you have that energy and you're able to put in that time, do it. If it's helping you learn, if it's helping you grow, because you could take that forwards to your next venture, whatever that may be. That's one of the biggest things I kind of think back on and talk with some of the guys, some people coming into the trade about.
So Jesse, what goals do you have moving forward? Right, you're bringing in a 5-axis machine. You're going to move in a couple of years, barring another baby. So what goals do you have for BetterCNC? What personal goals do you have moving forward, inside and outside of the business?
Yeah. So for BetterCNC, I view BetterCNC as kind of my first playground.
Okay.
The goal for this and the vision for this, since I've had the idea, is to make, I call it the golden shop. BetterCNC is going to have the perfect processes, the perfect flow, the perfect everything about it.
Okay.
And it's not going to be a big company. I don't want it to be a big company. Big companies are slow. I want to stay smaller so I can stay nimble. But once I have all those golden processes, I want to acquire a sheet metal shop. Cool. And I want to apply those processes and procedures. I want to acquire a metal fabrication shop and apply those processes and procedures.
That's awesome.
Because what pet peeve I've gotten, especially from my own shop, and when I was doing purchasing for another shop, is I hate waiting on other people. I hate waiting on quotes. I hate waiting on updates. And so my solution, part of my solution for that is to get to where I have everything under one umbrella.
I like it.
So Once I have all that under one roof, I can manage it all, and I can fix the problems that others may be having to not be as responsive as I want them to be.
Yeah. Makes total sense to me.
Yeah.
I love it, man. I think that'll be awesome. And I'm super stoked to watch your journey and you grow there. What piece of advice would you share with somebody who is starting their own company? Right. So you're 3 years into this now. You talked about advice that you'd give to the younger you or to younger people starting out in the industry about hours and stuff like that. But what advice would you give to somebody who is just starting a shop or thinking about starting a shop?
Just someone starting a shop, I would tell them, make sure what is your vision? What do you picture your shop being?
Yeah.
A lot of guys, they just want to work for themselves, buy a machine and go to the garage, and then they either grow by accident or they they stay steady enough, or they go back under because they didn't really have a plan to dive into it.
Yeah.
And I'm not even saying you have to have a business plan. When I first started, I just kind of had a bullet point plan. I was like, by 6 months, here's where I need. By 12 months, here's where I want to be.
Yeah.
But I had a vision. I've always had a vision of how I wanted the machinist playground part of it to be, how I wanted the flows to be, things like that.
Okay.
I pictured what I wanted to be doing every day.
Yeah.
And so every step I take was a goal to get there. And then something else I put out there is, don't get worried when you get slow. Get worried when you don't have stuff to quote.
Oh.
So a lot of shops, they'll get slammed. They'll be buried in work. We're buried in work right now. And you're like, okay, cool. I don't need to worry about getting more work in. Well, you need to start worrying about work now, because what you quote now is the work you're doing tomorrow.
Right.
And a lot of guys get comfortable when they're busy, but then they run out of work and panic because they hadn't been worrying about quotes coming in the door.
That could be the quote of the episode, Jesse, right there. I like that one a lot. Jesse, last question I ask every guest. What haven't I asked you that you want to share with the audience today?
Yeah, and I think one soapbox I do want to get on.
Yeah, do it.
It's a soapbox I get on any chance I get, because I see I'm in a lot of like some small machine shop groups on Facebook and things, and it drives me nuts. I'll see somebody say, "Hey, do you guys have a website? What do you think? Is it worth it?" And you get a lot of people saying, "No, I get no work off my website. It doesn't do anything for me." But you go look at their websites, and it looks like it was built on GeoCities in the 90s.
Yeah.
And so something I recommend to anybody is build a website. Take the time. I get so much work by just existing with a nice website online.
And your website is awesome. And I was going to put this plug in the outro, but check out the bettercnc.com website. It's a phenomenal website. Jesse, you've done a great job on it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, and if you're starting out and you're building a website, I actually have a 30-minute YouTube video where I go through every element on my website, why I put it there, the thought process behind it.
Really?
I put that out there to try and help other guys looking to build their own website, because I did it myself.
Very cool. I'll link it in the YouTube version of this episode. I'll link that episode to this one. Yeah, perfect.
Yeah. No, I'd say I'm trying to turn my YouTube into a resource for guys starting out, because there's a lot of video content out there helping guys run a shop, but there's nobody that really starts from day one.
Sure.
And so I'm trying to build those resources, even though I'm not day one anymore. It's still fresh memory.
Yeah.
Awesome. But yeah, no, I think building a website's massively important. I think that's underestimated, undervalued.
Yeah.
And build it for your customers. Don't build it for other machine shops to Google your equipment list.
Yeah.
Build it for what customers want to see.
And are you going to IMTS, Jesse?
I don't think I'm going to make it this year, just with the baby at the house and everything. We're growing phenomenally fast right now, so I'm having to hustle just to keep up.
I get it. I think all the things you were doing are really cool. Is there anything that you want to see from IMTS that you're bummed about missing? Any technology, any specific booth?
Nothing specific, but say just with what stuff I'm doing, I'm curious to see what the software side of it looks like, because I know there's a lot of people trying to jump in the manufacturing software game.
Yeah, absolutely.
But let's say it's cool to see all the techie toys and what's coming out for the machine side of it. But I've had some conversations like this too. Is none of it's really aimed at shops like me.
Right. Absolutely.
That's another soapbox I get on sometimes. Is there's just I think it's great. I think robots are cool, but if it takes 4 hours to set it up, and I'm a prototype shop, it's not going to make sense for me.
No, not at all. Not at all. Well, Jesse, thank you very much for being on today. I really appreciate your time. The conversation was awesome. So thank you very much.
Yeah, not a problem. Thanks for reaching out.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm starting to get out there a little bit more, and I'm trying to. It's fun for me to do. It's cool for me to see just this growth.
Yeah, awesome. Well, folks, that's a wrap on another incredible conversation on the Manufacturing Culture Podcast, this time with Jesse Casto. His journey from growing up in his father's machine shop to founding BetterCNC and pushing the boundaries of innovation in this industry is inspiring. I use that word a lot, but it really is. Jesse's dedication to continuous improvement and providing a better experience for his customers is a testament to what passion and hard work can achieve. Folks, if you've enjoyed today's episode, be sure to check out more about Jesse and his work at BetterCNC by visiting their website at bettercnc.com. Also, don't forget to visit our website at themfgconnector.com, where you can find all of our podcast episodes, additional resources, and links to our social media. Please follow us on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram to stay up to date with everything happening in this wonderful world of manufacturing. And again, another reminder, make sure to check out our YouTube show, The Manufacturing Connector, for exciting solutions and industry insights. Folks, we'd love to hear from you what you think about the show. Please take a moment to rate and review the Manufacturing Culture Podcast on whatever platform you listen to us on. Your feedback not only helps us bring you more amazing content and stories from leaders like Jesse, but also it rockets us up the charts every time you like or every time you leave a review or rate the show. If you found today's episode inspiring, share it with your friends, your colleagues, your grandma. Let's spread the word about the incredible transformations happening in this industry that we all know and love. So, folks, thanks for tuning in. Until next time, keep innovating, keep improving, and remember, there's always a better way.